Chapter 6, Los Angeles. We can still make our reservation. You can throw something on. Joan stared at Max, stunned. You're kidding, right? Not at all. Reservations at Carmichael's are very hard to get. Everyone eats there. The waiting list is months long. I can't believe you. Some man broke in my house, killed my dog, and tried to shish kebab me. Joan, you're being dramatic. Everybody gets robbed. This is LA. Stop the car. Don't be ridiculous. Stop the damn car. Max pulled the Lexus to the curb in front of a McDonald's. Joan, let's not overreact. Overreact? You're a callous, arrogant, insensitive jerk. Insensitive? Who just picked you up at the police station? Well, a million thanks for driving me home. Why don't you whip it out and I'll pull up my skirt and hop on? Max rubbed his eyes. His tortured look. She'd seen a half-dozen times, and the look was becoming increasingly frequent every time she offered an opinion, or her cell phone rang, or she talked about her day. Why was she with this guy anyways? Joan found the door handle and used it. He rolled the window down. Joan, let me at least take you home. She ignored him and walked into the restaurant. Maybe she was being a bit dramatic, but hell, the past few hours were dramatic. John tried to imagine how Max would react if he had some psycho chasing him. Big corporate hotshot would probably be sucking his thumb, begging for his mama. But that wasn't really fair. No one really knew what they'd do in a crisis situation until it happened. Maybe Max wasn't being insensitive. Maybe this was his way of trying to be strong for her. Was his suggestion so outrageous? Perhaps the best things for her would to be go out and have a good time. It sure beat going home and pulling schnapps off that steak. Joan turned around, hoping Max was still there, or perhaps even coming through the parking lot after her. Max was pulling out into traffic. Asshole. Fine. She didn't care for him much anyways. He was too good looking, and he knew it. Joan's second rule of dating: never date a man prettier than you are. She'd broken that rule because she thought Max had some class. He was young, successful, and not in the life. That was Joan's first rule. Never date a guy in the movie business. She had other criteria. No guys with back hair. No guys who wore speedos or thongs. No guys who lived with their mom. But the first two were the most important. Unfortunately, all her rules got her was an empty social calendar and the feeling that she was somehow unworthy, even with her many accomplishments. She went straight to the payphone. Wow, still have payphones. And punched in her PIN number, calling the person she should have called when this first happened. Marty, her assistant, her friend. In her eyes, he was the perfect man. He would make some guy really happy someday. And apparently that's what he was up to at that moment. When the call went through, another man answered, tipsy, buoyant, enthusiastic. Joan hung up. Lately, Marty had been about as lucky as she had been with men. Good for him for scoring. She didn't want to intrude on that. So what now? Joan sat down in a plastic swivel chair, noting how stupid her sockless running shoes made her look. Let me try that again. Noting how stupid her sockless running shoes looked with her skirt. After the police arrived, she had demanded to fill out the report immediately, hoping that the sooner they had a description, The sooner they could get the creep off the streets. The police complied, whisking her away to the station before she had a chance to change or even grab her purse. Sorry, my eyes are reading ahead. And now, 3 hours later, after sitting with an artist and reviewing mugshots and telling her story a dozen times, she was stuck at a McDonald's without a ride, wearing these dumb shoes, afraid to go home. Get tough, Joni, she thought. If you don't face it now, you'll never want to go back. Screwing up her courage, Joan removed herself from the chair and marched out to the street. It took her 3 shouts before a cab stopped. I wonder if that's real. I mean, I see it in movies, of course, but I've never been anywhere where there's been taxis, and certainly nowhere where people literally went out there and waved their hand and, hey! I mean, I know my hearing is bad, but their hearing must be really good. Anyway, her sense of dread increased with every tick of the meter. When the cabbie finally pulled in front of her house and asked if this was the place, Joan didn't know if she could move. Lady, you okay? Hold on. I have to go in, get some money. No purse. Meter's running. Man, this is old. I did not realize how old this book is. Be right back. She controlled her breathing, pushing it deep into her stomach, and got out of the taxi. No burglar alarm. Dark house. Dead guard dog. She didn't even have her keys. But the rear patio window was probably still open. That was in the back. Past Schnauz. Joan followed the bushes around her house, moving quick and confident, refusing to look at her poor dog or the steak that was meant for her. The police, after checking out her house, had closed the patio door. An officer on her case had volunteered. Damn oxygen. Sorry. An officer on her case had volunteered to hang around her house until she had came home, and Joan kicked herself for refusing the offer. She figured she had Max, and the cop had been too good-looking. Now, apprehension mounting, she wondered how she was going to get inside. Break her own window? No need. The patio door was unlocked. Joan went into the kitchen, turning on lights as she went, and found her purse on the floor where she had dropped it. After digging out her wallet, she walked out the front door and paid the taxi driver. The cab turned around in her circular driveway, and Joan watched the tail lights disappear down the hill. She felt very alone. Maybe that's also a reason why the taxi would wait, is because it's such a nice neighborhood. Back to the house. The front doorknob was covered with white powder. The police had determined this was the entry point and had gone ahead and checked for prints, even though she made it clear that the man wore gloves. Joan didn't know if she should admire them for the effort or be irritated that they didn't believe her. Once inside, Joan turned on her large screen television and changed the channel to CNN, grateful for the non-stop voices. She flipped on more lights, checked to make sure the doors and windows were all locked, and threw away her toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, soap, shampoo, anything he might have touched. Then she emptied her underwear drawer into the washing machine, her silverware drawer into the dishwasher, and started each of them on the highest heat setting. She had an urge to vacuum, to scrub the bathtub, and drain the jacuzzi, but exhaustion was getting the upper hand. Her last effort to cleanse the house was changing her sheets. And then she kicked off her gym shoes and collapsed onto the bed. Joan was able to relax for almost a full minute before paranoia raised its head. She picked up the phone and found it still disconnected. Her cell was in her car. Sleep would be impossible until there was a phone next to her. Joan got out of bed. She was padding through the living room when she saw the front door open. The scream was out of her mouth before he got into the room. Hello, Joan. Miss me? Same goatee. Same black outfit. same gloves. He had some kind of metal device in his right hand. Lockpicks. Joan willed herself to move, to run, to attack. Anything but remain planted there like a deer in the headlights. She took off towards the kitchen and went straight for the knife rack. With a steak knife in each hand, she turned around to face her tormentor. He was standing in the kitchen, regarding her calmly. I knew you'd be a fighter. Perhaps I should burn you with the stake rather than impale you on one. Get away from me. Sorry, can't do that, Joan. What the hell did I ever do to you? Joan's voice came out steeped in desperation. She was close to cracking. To me? Nothing. The English may feel differently. The guy was off his nut. That was good. She dealt with crazy people all the time. In the business, she could handle crazy. Joan moved her left foot, widening her stance. She assumed a defensive position, each hand holding the knife in a death grip. If he took another step forward, she'd try an attack. Keep him talking. Don't telegraph it. You're crazy. I know about the tattoo. I know about the adoption. I know who your parents really are. Don't you wonder how I know all of that? An easy, deliberate move. He took a bottle and a rag out of his left pocket. Something to knock her out with while he dropped her on that sharp piece of wood. Not in this lifetime. Joan lunged. The man was nimble, trained. He dropped to one knee and trapped her wrist in his armpit, then lifted up his forearm to block the other knife. But Joan didn't attack with the other knife. She went straight for the crotch, bringing her leg up and connecting hard. Her knee hit an athletic supporter. He closed his legs on her foot, trapping it. Joan dropped the knife in her pinned hand and grabbed his shirt. Then she let herself fall onto her back and flipped him over her head, her free leg planted in his chest. The intruder released her wrist. Joan rolled onto all fours, still in attack mode. Before he could get up, she struck with the knife, aiming for the neck. He saw the blow coming and moved to block it. The swing was deflected, but she still managed to bury the blade 2 inches into his shoulder. Before he could get up, she struck with the knife, aiming for the neck. Oh, sorry, I misread that wrong. Into his shoulder. She released the knife and scampered for the front door. Joan, I really think you're overreacting. Max, coming into the house. Max! She ran right into him, yanking under his arm. Come on! Max grabbed her, trying to hold her back. You need to calm down. This was the wrong time for a talk. They needed to get out of there. There's a... That's all she got out. The intruder had pulled the steak knife from his shoulder and flung himself at Max, plunging it into his back. Max dropped to his knees. Joan shoved the intruder, but he backhanded her across the forehead, sending her sprawling onto the driveway just a few feet away from Max's Lexus. The car was running, the headlights on. Phone, she thought. Call for help. She tugged the door open and slammed it closed, hitting the lock button. She looked around for Max's cell. It wasn't there. Damn it! Joan looked out the window. The intruder was hunched over Max, working on him with the steak knife. She couldn't tell if Max was dead or alive, but then she saw it, a feeble twitching in his hands. Joan leaned on the horn. The intruder stopped his attack and stared. Joan opened the window. Leave him alone! Is this your boyfriend, Joan? The intruder grinned. Handsome devil. But I can fix that. He began to cut away at Max's face. Joan thought about hitting the gas, running into him, but it would kill Max, too. She clenched her teeth. Fight or flight, Joni. Fight or flight. Joan de Villiers got out of the car. The intruder stared up at her, his eyes widening. He let go of Max's hair and looked over him. My, you are a brave one, aren't you? Joan pushed aside the fear and slowed her breathing. She didn't get to be a black belt taking a correspondence course. Joan could fight, and she could win. This guy was above her weight class, but she'd beaten men before. Joan planted her bare feet on the concrete driveway and centered herself. The man moved well, liquid and flowing, like a snake, Joan thought. He was smiling and confident, but that could work in Joan's advantage. So far, she had been reacting out of fear. He was underestimating her. If she stayed focused, she'd have a chance. Time slowed down, as it often did when she was fighting. Sound seemed to disappear, and her opponent became sharper, clearer. Instead of treating him as a threat, she mentally divided him into different strike points. Joan could break boards with her hands and feet. Bones weren't much thicker. He came in on her left, feinting with a hook, and then roundhousing. Joan slipped the punch, spun, and landed a solid reverse kick in his face, dead center. She strengthened her leg on impact, hitting him with all her 115 pounds. It sent the intruder sprawling onto his back, his head bouncing on the asphalt, his nose a mashed tomato. Sorry, I said concrete earlier. That was not in the book. It's asphalt, apparently. Like many tournament fights, it was over in a heartbeat. John had knocked him out, cold. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. Her brain told her to finish it, go for the death blow that she had practiced so often but had always pulled short in matches. But could she? Could she actually kill an unconscious man? Joan approached cautiously. His eyes were closed, and he looked more pathetic than threatening. She knelt on his chest, raising her fist, aiming for the neck, and couldn't do it. A moan from the driveway. Max. She got off her assailant and hurried to him. He was curled up in a fetal position, bleeding from several holes in his chest. His face looked like lasagna. She turned his head to the side so the blood wouldn't run down his throat, and then felt a pocket for his phone. Joan dialed 911 and considered what she should do with the intruder. Tie him up somehow? It didn't matter. When she looked down the driveway, the man was no longer there. Beverly Hills 911 emergency. This is Mrs. Schmidt. My name is Joan de Villiers. I need an ambulance and the police here as soon as possible. I'm at 1445 Hillcrest. Can you explain what happened? I was attacked. Joan's voice broke again. Chapter 7. Chicago. The O'Hare Hyatt Regency was one of the larger hotels in the area, with over 1,000 rooms. The 8-story building had been constructed in a U shape, with parking all around it. Tom circled slowly, trying to find a space. Even the handicapped spots were full. He put the Mustang in the courtesy bus slot. The lobby was buzzing. The majority of people milling about were white males over age 50, many spotting novelty t-shirts with slogans like "Get hooked on lures" and "Kiss my bass." The duo made their way to check-in and waited for the smiling concierge to notice them. "Are you gentlemen here for the convention?" "No, ma'am. I'm Detective Mankowski. This is Detective Lewis." They held out their badges. The girl held. She was young, blonde, attractive. Upon noticing this, Roy sidled closer, becoming alpha cop. "What can we do for you, detectives?" "We need your help in a homicide investigation. We're looking for a suspect believed to be registered here. He's manning a table at the convention." "I can check to see if he's registered. His name?" "All we have is his first name, Bert." "Ooh, that may be tough. We have over 1,500 guests currently registered, And they're organized by last name. Can you look them up by address? We believe he's from Milwaukee. I can try. She pushed a few buttons on her computer. Okay, here. We currently have 116 guests with the listed Milwaukee address. Anyone named Bert? Tom tried to crane his neck over the top of the computer to see the screen. There might be variations. Robert, Herbert, Albert, Norbert, Cuthbert, Gilbert, Hubert. Robert grinned. She batted her eyelashes at him. Tom had never seen a woman actually bat her eyelashes outside television. It'll take a moment. I'll have to go through them name by name. Okay, here's a Robert. Signed in as Bob, not Bert. Not a seller. Whoever bought table space in the convention center gets a special room rate. Let's see. Michael, Jeffrey, George, Chris, John. Here's one. Albert Bloomberg. He has a booth, and he did sign in as Bert. Can we have his room number and table number? He's in room 714, booth number 18A. I'll give you a convention map. Any others? She spent a minute going through the rest of the names. A fat guy in a shirt that read Master Bater. Yeah, funny, haha. Teens are still laughing about it today. Walked through the lobby, proclaiming the auction was about to begin. It thinned the crowd significantly. No others. He's the only one. They received a convention map and left the front desk, heading down a hallway to the Normandy room, a huge warehouse-sized open space packed with people and display booths. Every direction they looked had tackle or men discussing tackle. A voice boomed over the loudspeaker. Next up, mint in box with papers. A creek chub sucker, number 3900 in dog scale. Bidding starts at $200. Two Benjamins, Roy sneered. That's why they call it a sucker. Tom consulted the map and led them through the ranks and files of booths, zigzagging to 18A. The table was actually a glass display rack, showcasing several dozen brightly colored lures in neat rows. The man behind the display was thin, tall, in his 50s. Albert Bloomberg? No, he had to step away for a moment. I'm minding the store. You interested in one of his baits? Tom took a quick look in the case, noting all of the prices were triple digits or higher. He doubted there was a layaway plan. Is he back in his room? We really should talk to him personally. I think so. He was bringing down more lures to display. He's tall, right? Long hair about my age. Wrong guy. Bert is short hair, big nose, could be about your age. Tom nudged Roy over. You stay here. I'll check the room. Call if he shows. You do the same. Tom took out his cell phone, making sure it was on and set to vibrate. A ringing phone was not a wise thing for a cop to have on him in precarious situations. The loudspeaker thundered, "Sold for $750. You know, it's so odd. People that collect things that for anyone else in the world can be absolutely meaningless, but for them is absolutely priceless. And I wonder how much of that's left in this digital world. On one way, there's got to be a lot because there's not so much tangible anymore, which would make the tangible, I would think, worth more to a person. But I don't know. Just an odd thought, sorry. There was scattered applause. Roy shook his head. $750. What kind of damn fish can you catch worth $750? I cast that out. Better reel me in a Mercedes. Tom wove his way through the crowd and located an elevator, entering alongside two elderly men who were discussing worm burns. Tom exited on his floor of the hall to 714. He opened his jacket and stood to the left of the door before knocking. Hold on a second. The voice seemed to match the one on the phone. Tom tensed a notch. The door opened. The man was average height, with wavy brown hair and a closely clipped mustache. He was a couple pounds overweight, which showed in his hound dog jowls. Familiar looking, but Tom couldn't place him. Are you here about the loony frog? I can't go any lower than 1,500. Not a single penny. He blinked. Okay, 1,400. Bert Bloomberg? Yes, that's me. The bait is in an excellent plus condition, and it's the first production model, complete with egg sinker. That 1,400 is firm, solid, in stone. I won't go lower. Bert smiled, unsure. Fine, I'll take 13. I'm not here about Looney the Frog. Are you sure? You look familiar. Wait a second. Thomas? Tom was surprised that the man knew his name. Detective Tom Minkowski. How did... The resemblance is uncanny. You're number 5, right? The cop's eyes narrowed, accusing. How can you know all of this? Bert said, You don't know? Don't you have a tattoo on your foot? What does it mean? Tom Jessup figured it all out. I'm number 6. Have you met Jessup yet? He's dead. Bert swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbling. Dead? I just saw him a few days ago. How? Murdered. I need you to answer some questions. Sure, of course. The room was small, tidy. A suitcase was open on the table, filled with lures, individually encased in bubble wrap. Bert closed the door and paced to the table, then to the bed, then to the table again, staring at the floor. This is bad. He knew there was something wrong. I talked to him on Thursday. He said he was being followed. Am I next? Bert looked at Tom, his eyes wide. Could I be in danger? I buy and sell fishing lures, for the love of Mike. I never hurt anyone. I mean, sure, sometimes people get a hook in their finger. Sit down, Mr. Bloomberg. How was he murdered? Please sit down. Bert sat at the table and began to drum his fingers. Tom pulled up a chair, almost touching. He leaned close. Tell me about the tattoo and how you know my name. You won't believe it. Try me. I didn't believe it either. Thought Jessup was a crackpot. But when I saw all the research and the DNA, from the beginning, tell me. Tell you? No, that's no good. You won't believe me. How about I show you? Bert went to the nightstand and opened the drawer. He took out some courtesy Hyatt stationery and a ballpoint pen and set them before Tom. That's something I haven't seen in hotels recently. That and like little bottles of shampoo and stuff. And I guess it's probably just because people take it and they have to replace it, but they don't use it. I don't know. Write a few sentences in cursive. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, do it. This is what Jessup did with me. Write some song lyrics or what you did today or whatever. Just do it in script. Crackpot, Tom thought. But he'd play along and forgot the guy to open up. He wrote the first few verses of the Doors hit L.A. Woman. Fine. Now what? That's kind of funny. The song L.A. Woman and Jones in L.A. Sorry. Fine. Now what? Just a second. I have to find it. Bert located a briefcase at the foot of the bed and reached inside. Tom had his gun out and pointed before Bert could remove his hand. Hold it. Jeez! Don't shoot me! Take your hand out slowly. No quick moves. It's papers, just papers. Jeez, I think I browned my shorts. Bert, hand shaking, pulled a black leather binder out of his briefcase. It's Jessup's research binder. He wanted me to hold on to it for him. Bring it here. Stop yelling at me. I'm gonna have a heart attack, and you'll have to use CPR. And you won't do it, because I had egg salad with onions for lunch. Bert opened the binder and took out a piece of paper. He placed it in front of Tom. It was a printout of a handwritten rough draft, filled with crossed-out words, brackets, and arrows. Very old-looking. Tom began to read it. Some lawyer speak about quartering large bodies of armed troops. Then something struck him. The handwriting was his. He looked at his song lyrics and then back at the photocopy. All the letters matched. The T's were crossed the same way. The Y's had the exact same curly bottom. Tom copied the phrase, "He has erected a multitude of new offices," on his own paper, and found it impossible to tell the difference between the two. What the hell? Does it match? Exactly. Eerie, isn't it? Who wrote this? You don't recognize the words. Here's the first page. Bert handed Tom another photocopy, this one with a large scrawl at the top. It read, stupid oxygen. A declaration by the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. What is this? Bert smiled, a goofy little smile. It's a copy of the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. Tom stared at him, incredulous. So, this means what? I'm a reincarnation of Thomas Jefferson? Close. Bert sat on the bed next to Tom. You're his clone. The words hung there like a crooked picture. Tom opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Jessup knew about you, Bert said. He was planning on contacting you soon. He just needed a final piece of verification. You were adopted, right? Tom nodded. Jessup didn't know how or why, but he did have some idea of who. He found me and you and two of the others. So, I'm Thomas Jefferson. Not convinced? Here. Bert went back into the briefcase and took out a library book. Jessup's book on the Declaration of Independence. Tom stared at the face on the cover of the book. A painting of the third president of the United States. Older, white hair, wrinkles. But it bore a striking resemblance to Tom's face. The broad chin, the deep-set hazel eyes, the tight mouth. This is insane. Insane? Bert laughed. Are you saying you don't want this truth to be self-evident? Funny. And who are you supposed to be? Groucho Marx? Old-time comedian. None of you will know who he is. I'm Albert Einstein. I bet. I'm serious. Look at this. Bert took an Einstein biography out of the briefcase and handed it to Tom. The page opened to a black and white picture of the scientist as a young man. It was Bert, down to the big nose and droopy jowls. Tom pushed the book away. Impossible. Humans can't be cloned. Not 30 years ago. They didn't have the technology. Bert spread his hands. And yet here we are, Einstein and Jefferson, having a conversation. Who was Jessup? Thomas Edison. And the others? There's a guy in Nebraska, I think is Abe Lincoln, and a guy in Tennessee who is probably Robert E. Lee. Tom's cell phone vibrated. He put it to his ear. Nothing happening down here, Tommy, except some guy just bought a lure worth more than my damn car. How are things up there? Surreal. I'm with Bert in his room. Come up. Tom hung up and stared at the Jefferson book, his mind a tangle. This had to be some kind of put-on. He flipped it open and found a description of the man. 6'2" tall, thin and wiry, sandy hair. There has to be more proof than this. I can see that I look like Jefferson and write like Jefferson, but I could be a relative, a great-great-grandson or cousin or something. Bert nodded, his jowl jiggling. I figured the same thing. I mean, I flunked biology in high school. I get headaches when I do long division, but it all fits. I can explain it to you. Someone knocked on the door. Ah, the guy who owns the Looney Frog. 1500. Don't let me go for less than 1500. Bert went to the door, pulling it open and pointing dramatically. The head and Looney Frog, right? I've got it right here. Excellent plus condition. I couldn't go less than 1400 for it. Maybe 13. You can touch it. You don't need to wear gloves. Tom shifted to see the person standing in the doorway. Male, white, medium build, with dark blue eyes and thick, almost feminine lips. His face appeared to be stretched too tight. He was wearing latex gloves and a poncho, even though it wasn't raining. You can touch it. You don't need to wear those gloves. I'm Jack. You're Albert. We've both made history before, Albert. Let's do it again. Jack reached inside his poncho pocket, but Tom was already on his feet with his pistol in his hands. Freeze! Police! Jack grabbed Albert by the sweater and tugged him forward, his arm around the smaller man's neck, using him as a shield. A knife came out, wickedly sharp, with a long blade, the kind of crazy design the freaks bought from classified ads in Soldier of Fortune magazine. Fast as a snake, he brought the point under Bert's chin. I could cut out his eyes before you pulled the trigger. Bert lost all color. I like my eyes. They're my secret favorite body part. Drop the weapon. Drop the weapon. I know you. You're Jefferson. I'm number 10. Saucy Jack. 100-year-old mystery revealed. Tom's finger flexed lightly on the trigger, aiming for the perp's shoulder. Drop the weapon now. Drop the weapon now. I don't think so. Maybe you dropped the gun. The knife slid half an inch into Bert's chin, bringing forth a torrent of blood. Bert began to cry. Tom let out a breath, ready to fire. Jack must have sensed his intentions, because he pulled Bert backwards into the hall. Tom moved to follow, but then he heard Bert yell, There's two! A trap. Coming in low, under his line of fire, was Arthur Kilpatrick. He had been waiting outside the door. Tom couldn't bring the gun down in time and was caught in a flying tackle. Kilpatrick landed on top of him, his breath smelling of rotten meat. Hello, Mr. President. Tom's gun was pinned next to his body. Useless. But his left hand was only inches away from his pocket. The gravity knife. He yanked it out and flipped the switch. The blade sprung from the handle and locked into position. Tom jammed it into Kilpatrick's hip. The man howled, rolling off Tom and hobbling for the door, the knife jutting out of his leg. Tom rolled to all fours and stumbled into the hall after him. Kilpatrick had gone left, heading for the stairwell. Tom brought up his gun, hesitant to take a shot. The hotel is fully booked. If you miss, the bullet could easily go through someone's door. Tom spun in the other direction, searching for Albert and Jack. Jack had vanished. Bert was on the floor, his chin soaked with blood. Roy was kneeling next to him, gun in hand. Where's the perp? Tom yelled. Ran down the stairs. So Roy pulled out his cell phone to call an ambulance, or backup, or both. Tom took off down the hallway. He reached the door to the stairs and turned the knob. It didn't budge. Tom looked down and saw the wicked knife blade jammed underneath it, like a doorstop. Excising bad judgment, Tom kicked at the blade, neatly severing a large flap of rubber from the bottom of his shoe. Now that is sharp. He jogged back down the hall. Roy had taken off his tie and was holding it under Bert's chin. Door's jammed. They got away. Kilpatrick again? Yeah, plus a friend. Bert gasped. Tourniquet! Tie tourniquet! He okay? Nasty cut to the chin, nothing fatal. I'm bleeding to death. Tie a tourniquet! If I tie a tourniquet around your neck, it will strangle you. He turned to Tom. What in the hell is going on here, Tommy? It's a long story, but I think I know the guy who cut Bert. Did you see that knife? I came out of the elevator and he was waving it around the air like Jack the Freaking Ripper. Got it in one, Roy. Got what? Tom pursed his lips, his eyes intent. I think that was Jack the Ripper.